everybody. Welcome back to the Tummy Team Journey podcast. I'm Kelly Dean. I'm the founder and physical therapist with the Tummy Team. And I want to introduce this next episode. This is the first time we've ever done this type of episode, and it is a Tummy Team Journey podcast, but it is also a special type, and we are calling this Real-Life Rehab. And this is a episode where we are going to hear the story of one of our online clients that is doing a series of e-sessions with me. And she's done courses. She's done core foundations. She's done floor of your core, and she's done them a couple of times. And she's also now doing e-sessions with me. And this is actually our second e-session. So what we've decided to do is share her story, get her background, talk a little bit about what we did the first time I saw her, and then we hear how she's doing, what's working, what's not working. And then I am going to do like a real life rehab treatment with her where we really talk about what is the next logical step? What does she need to navigate to move forward? And I want you guys to experience things through her experience, her words that are going to resonate with you. This client her name is Lucille. She has had 10 pregnancies, and she is very active, and she is struggling with some back pain, and she desperately wants to be back playing with her kids, wants to be able to play soccer specifically with her kids. And she has a diastasis. It was 5 fingers, it's down to 3 fingers. And she's had so much improvement over the last journey. She started working with me after baby number 3, and she's had so much progress, but she's kind of hit an obstacle where she's like, I'm stuck here. And she had this kind of freak hip injury, and we're going to talk all about that. And we're going to share, you're going to hear a little bit about her story, but you're going to also hear a little bit about how I work with clients and how I look at the emotional component, the physical component, the practical application component. And you're going to see a lot of really cool ways that how we help you get to that next level. We'll talk a little bit about resources that we have in the Tummy Team family membership, but a lot of it is going to be just showing her that next step. And I'm excited for you to meet Lucille and to hear what's going on with her, but I'm also excited for you guys to realize that we're all on a journey. We're all on a journey, and sometimes you're going to circle back to something that you've treated before that is presenting differently, and you need more or new information now. And so I want to encourage you to circle back. You can have forever support from the Tummy Team. It doesn't matter what you did, when you did it, and how far you got. If you need more help, come on back and we'll see how we can help you. And I'm excited for you to experience this type of podcast and to learn a little bit more about Lucille and her journey. And hopefully it's going to help encourage you too. So let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Tummy Team Journey podcast. And this is a new type of podcast. We're going to do something that we are calling Real Life Rehab. My guest today is Lucille, and Lucille is an online client that's worked with me a little bit on and off on with our rehab programs, and is now doing a series of e-sessions with me. And we're kind of doing the before, although we have, in full disclosure, have done one initial session before this, but this is going to be like our before podcast. And then somewhere down the line, we're going to do a after podcast where we are kind of seeing how she's progressed. So this is the first time we've done this. So thank you so much, Lucille, for being a guinea pig and being willing. I think it's going to be great. So, Lucille, why don't you start out with telling us a little bit about your history? Tell us, whatever you want to share, about kind of your personal history and what you led you to like seeking help for what you're feeling.
Uh-huh. Well, thanks for having me on here. Um, yeah, so I I married and became pregnant without any prior education on core strength. And so okay, um I had 10 children. I have had 10 children in within 14 years. So just a little bit about me.
A
And
little bit. It's like a big thing. 10 kids in 14 years. But tell us a little bit more about like your motherhood journey, like all of that stuff.
uh-huh. So after about 3 children, I noticed my body was really starting to fall fall apart, basically, it felt like. And, my tummy didn't, like, bounce back to pre-pregnancy like I thought it would magically. And so I spent a lot of time praying about, like, how to fix this, and my friend shared about a resource she found online, which was you guys, the tummy team. And
Mhm.
so that was amazing education information when I started doing your core foundations and pelvic floor courses.
Yeah.
And so since or for the last 5 children, I have integrated that into motherhood, into life. Just you're in my head daily. Like it's amazing. Like
Good or
that.
bad. Yep.
No, for good.
Good.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that brings
so
us up.
you yeah, so you did the online work and you saw an improvement. Um, you had, in your training, did you have a diastasis? You had a diastasis, correct?
Yes, I had like a 5, 6 finger diastasis, and yeah, I got
And
healed it to a 3.
so you're living with it at about a three-finger diastasis, three-finger separation now. And, the other thing that she's not sharing is that she had, all home births and, and, you know, all vaginal births and, kind of went through kind of back to back breastfeeding while you were pregnant, a lot of that stuff. So your body was doing a lot during these 14 years. Um, but you, even though things were better, you still have had some lingering things going on, right? There's some things that kind of keep coming back or you're noticing. And we had an opportunity recently where we did an auction where people could bid on pretty much as many e-sessions as they need with me, and you decided you needed to do that. So talk about what is lingering, what, even though you learned so much and so much is better, talk about what's still lingering that's keeping you from like fully living the life you want to live.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, even with all the core strength integrations, I was doing, had this, like, lower back ache. No, yeah, for the most part during the day, I didn't feel it, but, mornings especially, and if I overexerted myself, it would show up very quickly. And so, yeah, I was not able to live how I wanted to live, like,
Mhm.
especially I weaned my youngest, about a half year ago now, and I figured that then I would, like, bounce back or it would disappear, I would become stronger very quickly, and since it didn't, it just follows me like just a lower back issue
Right.
that and then in March, I had this, like, right hip freak injury that kind of showed me that, I want to go back to alignment, really the foundational alignment strategies to, yeah, get on top of this for the long run.
Yeah. I think that, like, for many of us as women, when we're in the throes of back to back pregnancies, we get better, but then we get pregnant again, have another birth, and we kind of ride the roller coaster of, up and down function. And in the back of our mind, we're like, well, I just had a baby or I'm now pregnant. And we know that some of that is impacting our symptoms. But when you get to the point where you feel like, okay, I've weaned my last baby. I think we're done having kids and I want to be strong again. I want to be able to I don't have those pregnancy postpartum swings, so you're ready to be in a new season. But it has been 14 years, right? Your body isn't the same body it was 14 years ago. It's been through a lot of pregnancies and a lot of parenting postures. So we met about a week and a half ago, I think, for your first session. And you had talked to me about this kind of nagging low back pain, starts a lot in the morning. And it's just kind of this squeaky wheel that's in the back of your head all the time, and you're very aware of it. And then you had this more significant, more acute injury with your hip where there was a lot of instability and a lot of uncertainty, and you've had to be super careful to like rehab that and take care of that. And you've done a lot of work with me, but you've also seen a chiropractor, and I think you saw a PT as well, right? You saw a PT
Yes, in
um
person.
in person, yeah. And so now we're kind of trying to figure out what's next. And your goals, you could tell that every person you've seen has helped a little bit, but your goals are you'd like to be able to run. You were an athlete prior to motherhood, and you've got little athletes as children, and you want to play with them. You want to run, play soccer, and you want to be able to like your body to match what you feel like inside, that you're an athlete inside, even though you've been kind of on a little bit of a detour for the last bit having babies. Is that
Mhm.
correct? That
Yes,
sound right? Yeah.
yes.
And right now you're doing some of those things. You do like little runs, you play goalie, right? But you're still very cautious and very, very cautious. So one of the reasons why I asked Lucille to come on as a podcast this is kind of in lieu of our second session, is because a lot of times, if you guys have been listening to the Tummy Team Journey podcast, I have these great success stories. Clients will talk about how they're doing, but I always, not always, often I feel like they're holding back or they're not saying something. And then when we turn it off, they'll say, I have this one lingering thing. And then I'll tell them what to do about that lingering thing. And I was like, we just need to do that within the podcast. Because we call this a journey for a reason. And I think sometimes people think that we just arrive and everything's better, but we go through different seasons and different our body needs different things. And where we are at 38 is different than when we were at 24, right? And so recognizing what that looks like. So last time we met, I gave you we talked about all of this, and I gave you three things to start with, because I like to have people. I like to first understand the history, then I like to look at what you're already doing so we know what's working and what's not working. I like to know what your life looks like, what you're doing throughout the day. And then I try to give you really practical small steps that you can do pretty frequently. So your small steps where I had you work on like active sitting and doing just 5-second transverse holds. And then if you were doing standing, I had you do some pelvic circles to loosen up, and then doing just like 3 to 5 second TA holds in standing. And then the biggest thing that I gave you was some nighttime neutral pelvis stretches. And so the reason we went that direction, the first thing I recognized is where your transverse is, you're aware of it, but I want to fortify it throughout the day, multiple times a day, that this muscle stabilizes you. And then a lot of times when I have clients that are experiencing morning pain, If we do some releases before bed, it gets blood flow into those muscles. And a lot of times the morning is a little bit better. So, this is our check in to see what's working, what's not working, how your body's feeling at this point, and then we'll kind of talk about what the next step is. So, tell me how it's going so far with those three things I gave you.
Yeah, well, I I really appreciated that we started small.
Yeah,
Yeah,
surprises people. It surprises people, but it is we're looking for sustainability and consistency, so small is better.
uh-huh. Yeah, I can I can tell that I'm, like, slowly becoming more conscious, more aware of if I'm, in doing well, like, in neutral pelvis, in, um but then I can also tell when I'm, like, not I don't know where I am.
Mhm.
So then I did watch your neutral pelvis, series,
Yeah,
and just doing some of the exercises you talked about there, like, helped me to okay, now I can feel that the weight goes, down the center of my legs, like, in the center of my feet. I can feel like I'm in neutral pelvis. So, yeah, I can feel like sometimes I'm aware, and a lot of the time I'm like, "Okay, I'm not sure," like I
yeah.
guess one question
So,
I have go ahead.
yeah, let me just speak to that first, and then I wanna hear your question. So, the series she's talking about it's called The Elusive Neutral Pelvis, and it's named that way for a reason. That's what somebody a client said to me. He said, "Oh, neutral pelvis, you're so elusive." And because neutral pelvis is where your pelvis is lined up like a bowl, like that's not going to tip over either way. So it's right in the middle, and your rib cage sits on top of it. Neutral pelvis is the framework for your core to activate and your pelvic floor to activate. And when we can get to neutral pelvis, it helps the muscles that might be compensating around the pelvis, pulling asymmetrically or unevenly on your pelvis to start to let go. But it's a journey, and so there's some little stretches. There's the calf stretch, there's the pelvic circles, there's the hamstring release, there's the sitting hip stretch, which we kind of hesitated a little bit on for you. We were like, we're gonna see how that one went. um and then even like the standing QL stretch. So certain stretches that we do that kind of release all around there, but at the same time I'm trying to help you feel what neutral feels like in sitting, what neutral feels like in standing. And awareness is the first step. So the times that you feel it, that it's like, ooh, that's where I'm supposed to be, that's awesome. But it's equally as awesome to know when you're not there, because sometimes we've been living not there for a really long time and it wasn't even on our radar. So now that it's on the radar, it allows you to go, oh, I feel like I maybe need to adjust something. So tell me what your question is about. Is it about neutral pelvis?
Um, Now I lost my train
Oh,
of
no,
thought.
shoot. So
Um,
you were saying that you could feel it through your feet, but there were some times that you were not quite sure where you're at, in your alignment, right?
mhm.
Do you feel that differently in sitting? It's gonna come back to you. Do you feel it differently in sitting than in standing? Is one easier than the other? Is it easier for you to feel like you're in the right position sitting or standing?
Yeah, in sitting, I feel comfortable, like, I feel like I'm in the right position, like,
Yeah,
so, yeah, it would be in standing
yeah.
that I'm not sure if oh, actually, the question was, um, like, in the long run, like, do you want to be, like, have, like, an active transverse or,
Ooh,
when you're standing at all times?
that's a great question. So so when you what I want through where we wanna eventually get. So the neutral pelvis is the first kind of get your pelvis in the right position, and then when we do the exhales and the belly breaths to activate the transverse, right? That activation is like a hug and it feels really good and feels very stable. And our desperate minds feel like, oh, I need to do this all day long. But that's not true. What I want you to have all day long is this elongated feeling, like that cable pulling you up from the crown of your head, nice and tall, this lighter feeling instead of tighter feeling. So when we do that exhale and we draw the tummy in with that transverse hold, that's the full intensity of that muscle. That's not where we live all day. We let it go about part way where it feels like it's on, still holding us, but it's not tense. That's where it's right in the middle. We live in this all or nothing where it's like completely off or completely on, but really the middle is where you want to live. It should feel like you're lighter more than tighter. Like you should feel the muscles on, but you're not working super hard. At first, it might feel like you're working hard because you're used to collapsed posture or inactive postures. That's why we do some of the work sitting with back support. That's why sometimes people use a splint for a period of time. That's why I don't expect you to hold it forever, but we're just kind of having it come back to that point of elongating, elongating, elongating. Think about your neck muscles holding your head up all day. They're doing it, right? My neck is on right now. Your neck is on right now, but it's not tense on, right? It's not like I'm about to head a soccer ball on, right? So there's a level, kind of you know, a progression. That's not the word I'm looking for, but there's like a level of how much. So if you're just standing, it should be kind of partially on. Now, if you're holding one of your kids or picking up one of your kids, then we engage it more. So it's relative. That's the word I was looking for. The activation of your core is relative to the demand you're asking of your body, right? So if you're
Oh,
lifting up
sense.
a 10-pound kiddo versus a 30-pound kiddo, versus maybe a 60-pound kiddo, right? There's a different amount of activation that's required for each level of what that is.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of times, if we're using a lot of extra tension when we don't need it, then when we do need it, we're burned out. It's like clenching your jaw all day when you don't need to, or having your hand in a fist, right? When you're not holding on to anything. So your core has a purpose, and ultimately it's to hold you up and hold you together. And depending on if you're sitting with back support, it needs a little bit less activation. If you're sitting at the edge of a seat without back support, maybe a little bit more. If you're sitting on something that's moving, maybe a little bit more. If you're standing, a little bit more. If you're standing on one foot, even more. If you're standing carrying something, it's a different thing. So it becomes relative. In the initial stage of what we're teaching you is getting you in the right alignment and then doing that exhale so you can feel it hug and then coming back and trying to find that middle ground of where you're going to live.
Uh-huh. Wow, that
That
makes a lot of sense.
yeah. It's like how much do I need, and it's not overreacting, not underreacting. And I think that most of the people I'm working with are in one of those extremes, like an overreaction or underreaction, where the muscle's disconnected and doing nothing and we're like all frumpy, or an overreaction where we're bracing and tensing up all the time. And that sometimes happens with chronic pain or with just a lot of fatigue where we're bracing all the time. And I don't want it to be bracing. I want it to feel like that supportive hug.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you've been working on those neutral pelvis stretches. Did you try to do the neutral pelvis stretches before bed?
I did the ones you gave me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah,
Tell me about
I felt that I felt really good in the morning, actually. Now
yay.
I'm not exerting myself these days, very much at all either.
Right.
Um,
But
so yeah.
even on your non-exertion days prior, it sounded like, you can correct me, it sounded like most days you woke up pretty stiff and it would warm up as you go, but on days where you maybe overdid it, you were really stiff and it took longer to warm up.
Mhm.
So you have been being cautious with your movements. But I don't want you to underestimate the benefit that you're already seeing of getting the blood flow into those muscles before you go to bed at night. So, I yeah, I'm excited to hear that you are noticing a difference because if we can start out your day out of pain, or at least with a much lower level, and you have more blood flow in those muscles, then every day we're not like just kind of digging ourselves out of a hole to move forward. We're starting and we can take a step forward each day, right? But when
Mhm.
your body is starting out feeling really, uh, really locked up in the morning, it can it kind of it directs your day. It guides your day a little bit, right?
Yes.
So which stretches were you doing before you went to bed? Do you remember?
So it was the standing in stride calf stretch, the forward bend hamstring stretch, pelvic circles, transverse hold standing, and the QL stretch. And then in bed, it was the double knees to chest and the Jesus pose with drum rotation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's like takes about how much time would you say that takes before you go to bed?
I would say 5, 5 to 8 minutes
Yeah,
total.
yeah. And that's because you're kind of taking a little bit of time with each thing, right? But 5 to 8 minutes before you go to bed. And the reason that I love to have people that have morning pain, honestly, I do this as part of my self-care. I do a stretching routine before I go to bed every night. And if I skip it, I feel it. I do it every night. I kind of got into a habit, and now that it's a habit, I want to keep it a habit. I don't want to get out of that habit. But building that in, what I notice is as we are moving through our day, and this is everybody, this is not just people with like a diastasis or functional core weakness, but as we're moving through our day, our body is fatiguing out, and our helpers, our compensation muscles are kind of starting to kind of kick in and do more and more work for us. And then if we just go to bed, then everything that kind of got tight through the night is now in that tight position, and we're pretty passive, not moving for, 6 to 8 hours, right? And so everything just kind of locks in. And the magic for everything in your body is to release restrictions with increasing blood flow to the area. So when we do a stretch or a release, like some of the things don't feel like stretches, like Jesus pose doesn't really feel like a stretch. You're just laying there, right? Pelvic circles don't necessarily feel like a stretch, but releases open up the muscles to let blood flow in, and then that blood flow releases toxins, brings in all the nutrition that heals the muscles, and heals all that tissue, and then now you're sleeping with all that blood flow all being, like, unrestricted, and so in the morning, we're starting with a fresh slate. So, the number one thing I do with people that have that morning pain is we do some releases before bed and getting into that routine. But the bonus for you was you starting to become much more aware of neutral pelvis alignment, which I'm sure you've heard over the courses over the years, but you're now in a season where that alignment is going to help you out more than anything. Um, okay. So, was there anything I gave you that you're like, "Oh, I wasn't able to do it," or "It was harder than I thought," or I only did it a little bit because of this." Was there anything that didn't work for you in our treatment plan?
Um, I I was yeah, I could do them all well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I could.
Any Okay, good. So it was doable, and that's what
Yeah.
I love to hear, but I always give people permission to tell me what wasn't doable, even if it was just like, "I realize I don't sit enough to do that." Like, there's, like, no judgment here. Part of my job is to help navigate the obstacles that get in our way of healing. Your body is gonna naturally gravitate towards healing. My job is to help you remove the obstacles to help you get there. So whatever those obstacles are, could be like well-meaning obstacles or like just circumstances or whatever. Any new symptoms that weren't like that you didn't notice like last time? Because sometimes the biggest symptom takes up all of our brain, but then when that symptom gets a little bit less, then we notice new things. Or if we don't have the morning pain, we notice something else. Anything new that you're noticing in your body?
So yeah, I would what I'm even with like my more loose lower back
Mhm.
feeling, I can still feel like, especially when I'm doing the Jesus pose with trunk rotation, if I flip to my left side, I can feel it pulling at my um, right lower back, like almost,
Okay.
I don't know if it's the hip, but yeah, it's kind of,
Does
yeah,
it feel like
that
it's
is,
right in that joint space, or does
I,
it feel more like it's in the muscle?
um,
Like more in your butt muscle or up along your back or like right in the pelvis joint, that bony SI joint?
yeah, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I
'Cause you're
would
not
say
sure.
it's just lower back. Like there's like a right and left bone, and it's like
Yeah,
it's definitely that left bone that my chiropractor always like pushes on that one because
yeah,
we're always trying to address that one.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that one I can like when I flip over to my right side, it doesn't pull the same way. So I can tell that it's my right side that is a little bit tighter. And
Okay.
yeah, the
It
same with that.
feels it feels tight. Does it feel like it's catching or does it feel tight?
Um, I feel like a twinge of pain, like it's pulling, like I'm
Yeah.
pulling on something,
Okay.
like a tight muscle,
So
maybe.
when you do, and you feel it mostly on the right, and was which hip was your troublesome hip when you had that acute pain?
It was the right one, right
It was
side.
right. Okay, so it's the same side, same area or slightly different area? Because the other you kinda mentioned that area, but also kinda like in your groin area before?
Okay, yeah. So, so that would be like in the back, and then so you last time you had talked about doing the sitting hip stretch, I believe.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so I can do that with my left leg, like, no problem. Then when I do it with my right, it, like, angers it that it takes, like, 3 days to calm down,
Yeah, does not
just
like it.
from yeah. So that's kind of like the inner side of my leg feels
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay. And so this is on that side, but it's like a different it's kind of a different pain when you're in that Jesus pose stretch.
yeah.
Do you feel that later in other ways during the day in that same area?
Um, if I would say if I kind of overdo it, my whole hip kind of feels sore.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How did you feel when you were doing the QL stretch, when your arms are overhead and you kind of do that? Any does that help relieve that area or any new pains with that one, or does that feel okay?
That one feels good.
That one feels
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Yeah, that one feels good.
love that. And how about the forward bend hamstring? That one feel okay?
Yeah, for the most part, I can feel it, like, pulling at my lower back, which is those tight muscles overall, I think.
Okay.
Um, so
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. So any I kind of know where I want to go, but I want to ask just a couple more questions so I don't get ahead of myself. Um, Anything in your upper back, like in your mid back, like by your shoulder blades or anything like that while you're working on kind of your transverse work, anything like that?
No.
Okay, good. And would you say that overall, like your low back pain seems you still have like certain movements that are cautious and that are causing some stuff, but overall, do you feel like your back pain has gotten better, at least that morning back pain since our last session?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, okay. Does
Mhm.
that give you a little bit of hope?
Yeah, it does actually. That's
Yeah.
like,
It's
yeah, I
cautious hope. Cautious hope. It's nice in one session to feel like things are definitely moving in the right direction. And
mhm.
do you feel like I know you've done quite a bit of transverse activation work in the past. Do you feel like just spending a little bit of focused time on it, even in these small steps, has that increased your connection to your core?
Yeah, definitely. I even with the past work I've done, like there's seasons I was more intentional and
Mhm,
then like less intentional.
mhm,
And I'm very thankful for this time of just going to the yeah, bare basics, starting
mhm.
there again because I felt like I was supposed to be here and I knew that well I'm not bringing I feel like I was missing or not bringing my whole self along
Yeah.
yeah, in awareness and yeah, but I
Yeah, and
wasn't
I
sure like what that
Yeah, and
was.
I think one of the things, especially for people that have gone through the rehab course, in the rehab course, I'm trying to build up some endurance in the muscles. So we might start out with a 3 or a 5 or a 10-second, and then they're building up that endurance of how long you can hold the transverse. So I think that sometimes when people return back after another birth or after a season away of that intentional rehab and you've been doing the functional integration and you're feeling like, oh, I need to do like a little bit of a reboot, we fall into the trap of feeling like, oh, I need to be doing a bunch of 20 or 30-second transverse holds. Because that's maybe where you finished before or like that you can be. But I think the common, misconception and, like, hopefully sets you free a little bit is, I like people to start at 5 seconds. I would rather you do 3 to 5-second holds and do multiple of them sprinkled throughout your day than do 10, like, 30-second holds. I what we want is like a touch, a touch, a touch, a touch, a connection, a connection, a connection, a connection, because we're not trying to get your core to be held on all day long other than elongated. So we just want to keep kind of going in. Oh yeah, that's where that muscle is. Oh yeah, that's where that muscle is. And surprisingly, not to you, not to me, that's enough. That's enough to kind of get you back up. Then we get to that point where we're going to ask your core to do more when your body is doing more, right? So we're going to have your core do more when you're lifting your kids or when you're doing stuff like that. All right. So we're going to go over your next step, okay? And why this is the next step. And I'm going to be taking notes for you and I'll send you these notes, Lucille, so you don't have to try to memorize what we're going to talk about. Okay. So the I want to keep gently getting blood flow and releasing the restrictions around that right hip, okay? But I don't want that to be our sole fixation because there's a lot of good things going on. We need to give it some attention, but not all of your attention. Because when we give it all the attention, fear gets connected to it and then embracing, right? And you're like I said before, your body has an incredible capacity to heal. You've been seeing, that this is a muscle and a alignment thing, and it's just some consistency over time. So we're going to be really loving and gentle with that area. So never when you're doing your releases power through pain in that area. There's a couple of things within the stretches I already gave you. Let's just still hold off on that left sitting hamstring stretch for right now because your body's telling you too much, too much. But what we are going to do is in your Jesus pose and trunk rotation. Um and also like when you do the double knees to chest, are you doing kind of like the pelvic circles where you circle your knees back and forth on
Mhm.
that? Okay. So when you bring your knees up, double knees to chest on your back, we're going to do some kind of side to side. Okay, just going a little bit side to side. And when it gets sticky to one side, to the right side or to the left side, just kind of shake it around there, kind of loosen it up, loosen it up, and then come back. Don't push through, but keep the movement going. The movement keeps blood flow in there. Then when you put your feet down and you're more in the Jesus pose and your knees are bent, but your feet are on the bed, I don't want you to go straight to trunk rotation. I want you just to let your knees kind of go back and forth, back and forth. And when it gets too close, just stay there and come right back. Don't go past where your body is saying it's okay. Even if you go really far to the left and you go only a little bit to the right, that's okay. Go both sides, okay? And then in that same position, and you don't have to keep your arms out in Jesus pose. You could put your hands on your tummy and do some belly breaths, or you can also put your hands right on those places, like whether it's your groin or your hip. You can put your hands on those places and add some counter pressure. Counter pressure disrupts the pain cycle. It also it directs your body to bring blood flow into an area. We're not doing it like a tourniquet, we're doing it like some pressure point. So pain and pressure run on the same neural pathway. So if there's a pain response and we apply pressure, it can actually um, change what your brain is doing, because when pain hurts, everything restricts and we pull away from it. But what I actually want to think in terms of, okay, I've got this angry spot, this scared spot, this spot of my body that feels unstable, unsupported, and instead of like giving it a wide berth, I want you to kind of lean into it, kind of like your mama. You're a mama to your kids. Somebody falls down, you don't go back in the house and go, get over it. You go, you pick them up, you brush them off, you give them a little back rub, you tell them it's going to be okay, and then you send them on their way. I want you to take that same nurturing mama feel to this part of your body and like giving it a little massage, putting a little pressure on it, like, oh, it's okay. And then letting your body move within whatever range feels comfortable, but you're kind of giving it that extra support. Our body, just like we avoid pain, like if we touch something, we pull away from it. Sometimes when something hurts, we clench up, and then now there's no blood flow in that area. And the blood flow is where the magic happens, right? Where the healing happens. So you're going to just spend a little bit of time just like soothing, nurturing, and loving on that spot. Just when you do those couple of exercises, you can during the day, if you notice it in a certain activity, instead of being frustrated, like, oh, my hip, I want you to be like, oh, my hip needs a little love right now. And give it just like a little bit of massage, a little bit of blood flow, a little bit of massage, maybe do a little pelvic circle and massage, massage, massage. Okay. Because we're trying to like kind of heal that area and get a lot of nutrients into that area, and also change how your body's reacting to that kind of pain spot. The other thing with your forward bend hamstring stretch, okay? Forward bend hamstring stretch, you should not feel in your back. You should feel in your legs. So when you feel it in your back, it's because you're bending over too far, or you're not sticking your butt back far enough. Okay. So when you do that bend over, you should be like a 7, not like a question in your low back, then kind of extend yourself up a little bit more and sit back, and you should feel it like right in the sit bones and down the back of your legs, maybe even down to your calves, but not in your lumbar region. Okay. So if you're
Okay.
feeling it there, you're in a slightly off angle. Okay. So just adjust so that you feel the tension and the stretch in the right place and not in the wrong place. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to keep those stretches as what you're already doing, but just with that little bit of shift of focus. Okay. Then the other thing we're going to do, because your goal is to be able to do more, right? Your goal is to be able to walk and to run and to hike for hours. So the next step for you is to start using like this core connection and this neutral pelvis in how you're walking and how you're moving around. Okay. And you're probably somewhat familiar with active walking, that concept of active walking. Do you remember that from the courses? Um,
Kind of.
a little bit. I'm going to explain it. So, active walking is putting your body in the best, like think about your body as a machine moving through the world, right? And like if you were driving a car, you want all the wheels pointing the same way. You don't want a flat tire. You don't want like, your alignment to be off and one wheel pointing out to the side. You want everything going forward and being as efficient as possible. So act what I want you is like, I don't know if you naturally take a walk during the day or if it's just something like when your kids are outside walking around the backyard, or if they're playing soccer, walking up and down the soccer field. If you have a dog that you walk, even I mean, I had a season where the most walk I had was in Costco, and I did it in Costco. So what I want you to think about is before you're going for any length of walk, do a couple of the neutral pelvis releases. And so, obviously, Costco, you're not going to like, maybe you do a forward bend hamstring stretch at your car, but I would say just start with like maybe the pelvic circles and the standing QL stretch, doing a little bit of that before you go to lengthen everything. And then as you're walking, I want you to have your eyes on the horizon. So as soon as your eyes look at the floor or the ground or your kids, your head comes down, your shoulders come down, your tail tucks under, and you're in a different alignment. So eyes on the horizon, like looking straight ahead. I know sometimes you're going to have to look down. You have 10 kids. You got to make sure people aren't running in the road. You got to watch what's going on. But your anchor should be kind of making eye contact with other adults. So having your ability to look up and elongate through your head. So you're walking kind of like a supermodel, and then just having nice, long, extended, like I say, pushing back at the earth, where you're actually just letting yourself, it's almost like you're on a treadmill with no motor and you're pushing back at the earth. So the key is, I'm not too worried about that because that sometimes messes with people's head. What I want to do is set you up for neutral pelvis, elongating, and where are my eyes on the horizon? And then have you start implementing that when you're walking, and then periodically just do a little exhale, your core will come in, and then let it go back to its happy place. Not all the way here. We'll take a breath. Exhale, let your tummy come in, and then let it live in that long, lean, and lifted, lighter, not tighter place. Okay.
Mhm.
So it does make you think a little bit, and you're not going to do this at first. You're not going to do this every place you walk, but I am telling you, like as you get used to, as you start aware, as I start telling you to look up on the horizon, you will be acutely aware of how much you're looking down all day long. And if we're going to get you running, you have to walk well. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, and one of the best, underrated, but best forms of core and pelvic floor work is walking in good alignment. Like better than a Kegel, better than a crunch, walking in good alignment. That's how our body was meant to move through the earth. Nice, tall, making eye contact. I always say that the world could use a little bit more eye contact, a little bit more smile at your neighbor, than less on our phone, looking away, avoiding eye contact, right? We need some more healthy human interaction in the world. But that, like, think if you could get like a little bit of a walk, and I'm just saying, even like a 10-minute walk, a walk around the block, into your daily life, but then look at other times that you're walking for an extended period of time, trying to eyes on the horizon and elongate. And if you can't get there right away, see if that standing QL stretch and neutral pelvis will help you do that. The last thing about active work walking that I want you to think about is, as you're walking, notice, are my feet both pointing forward, or are either of them pointing out to the side, or is one pointing out to the side? Okay? Because your feet are like your wheels of your car. They need to be pointing forward. And sometimes when we've been sitting on in posterior pelvic tilt, or we have an injured hip, something changes there. And when we walk with one foot out, we're doing something weird at our hip, knee, ankle level. So if it is, take note of it. And then don't try to be extreme and force it, but see if you can bring it in a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more so that we try to even things out. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Poor alignment is okay if you're, you know, driving, from here down the block. But if you're taking a road trip to the Grand Canyon, you want your car in good shape. And, the more we're up and moving, we want to kind of set the stage for everything to be good. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So your next step is to continue the belly breath work, the transverse hold work, sprinkled throughout the day, sitting and standing, to continue your bedtime stretches, but be a little bit more nurturing to the hip area that's still kind of angry. Just don't force it, but see if we can just kind of loosen it up with blood flow. Watch your neutral pelvis, your forward bend hamstring stretch, make the adjustment so you feel it in your butt and your hips, but not in your low back.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna add the active walking to eyes on the horizon, elongated, maybe doing a little bit of neutral pelvis releases before and after just to kind of set the stage for you to be in the best position. Okay?
Uh-huh.
How
Yes.
does that feel? Does that feel doable?
Yes, that does. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Do you have like when you think about your daily routine, do you have places built in where you can do an extended walk where you can think about this?
Yeah, I'd like to do like a 15-minute walk every day. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be perfect.
Yep, we're gonna build it into what you're already doing. Great, great. And then do you have kids currently in soccer right now?
Not till this fall.
Okay, all right. You're not the crazy soccer people that are all year round. I have a friend who's a soccer coach, and I was like, "Isn't soccer season in the fall?" And he's like, "Soccer season? Every season's soccer season." And I was like, "Oh, sorry." I was like, "I guess it is." So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that you already have that 15-minute built in. But then, as you're going, kind of just like be very aware, but not in like a judgmental way. Like, this is what I noticed because we're at a stage right now where we're not going to shame ourselves. You know what you know until you know better. Your body's been doing an awesome job, gave you 10 kids and you have some symptoms, but they're small symptoms. You just know that there's more for you. So we are just going to keep moving forward with little adjustments in the things that you're doing and keep kind of an inventory of what your pain levels are on a daily basis. In the morning, maybe after a harder day, kind of keep track of that because this is what's tricky is once pain goes away, we forget we ever had it. Once a symptom is eliminated, I'll come back to somebody and say, "How's that back pain?" I'm like, "Back pain?" Or, "How's that incontinence?" Incontinence? They don't even remember it. And that was like what we talked about for 45 minutes in their first session, because we're just a negative feedback system. We only notice what's not working. We don't take inventory of the things that are working. So while we're on this journey, we want to celebrate the victories, right? We want to
Mhm.
celebrate when things are getting better so that we acknowledge our body's capacity for healing. And so when the next thing inevitably, we're human beings, when the next thing inevitably crops up or happens, we don't have to panic. We don't have to think, "Oh, my body's broken and falling apart." We think, "Oh, I wonder what I need to do to fix that or to help that or to heal that or to remove the obstacle that my body needs removed so I can actually get there." Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then it
Yeah.
just shifts. We don't panic when things happen. We just roll with it and go on, and just give our body what it's asking for. Because pain is just your body, one of the many ways your body is asking for your support. And so we're just going to give it your support and figure out what support it needs. And it might look different.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing that aspect in, like just the being compassionate on yourself. Yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
Self-compassion is underrated in our world, but it is essential. And what I often work with is very compassionate people to other people, but we are kind of abusive to our own body. We're like, "Oh, why isn't it just bouncing back?" And your body's like, we've been pregnant for 14 years. Come on, give me a
Yeah.
break, you know, right? But it does have the capacity to be pregnant that many times and for you to still get to be able to play with the kids that you birthed, right? We're going to get there.
Uh-huh.
Um, so, okay, that's where we're going to end the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. And Lucille's going to come back. I'm not sure when, maybe in a couple weeks, maybe in a couple months. We'll decide together when the next time you want to share where we're at. But you guys will get to come back and hear the next step or where Lucille is down the road and what she's capable of getting to, and it's going to be exciting. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time at the podcast journey or the tummy team journey. Okay, thanks everybody.